Thank you very much for joining us this evening for the induction of the first 25 members of the newly inaugurated TECnology Hall of Fame.
Among his 1,300 other inventions, Thomas Edison played a major role in the development of recorded sound. His 1877 cylinder phonograph launched an entire industry, although the rise of the competing gramophone disc eventually led to the end of the cylinder format. Reluctantly, Edison debuted his first commercial disc phonograph in 1912. In 1887, Emil Berliner invented the flat disc gramophone, the precursor to the modern record. Berliner's system used wax-coated zinc discs as a recording medium. After recording, the disc was dipped into an acid bath to permanently etch the pattern into the disc. Electroplating the master zinc disc created a stamper for mass manufacturing. Perhaps one of Berliner's most lasting acts was trademarking his master's voice painting, which became the symbol for the Victor Talking Machine Company after it acquired Berliner's business in 1902. The first audio vacuum tube was created by accident. Lee DeForest was trying to create an electromagnetic radiation detector by adding a third electrode between the cathode and the plate of a diode. This resulted in a triode tube, where a small voltage at the grid could create huge changes in the plate voltage, and the first amplification device was born. Lee DeForest referred to his triode invention as Audion and received a patent for his discovery in 1907. The talking motion picture was the biggest revolution in 20th century audio. Vitaphone, a 1925 co-venture between Warner Brothers and Western Electric, was a short-lived and awkward sound format using 16-inch 33 RPM discs on a projector-driven turntable. The format was less than ideal. A skip in the record or a film splice meant loss of sync. The system's bandwidth was only about 4 kHz, and the life of the shellac disc was limited to a couple dozen plays at best. But in 1927, the use of the Vitaphone system on Al Jolson's The Jazz Singer created a worldwide demand for film sound and marked the end of the silent screen. The digital world was forever changed in April of 1928, when Bell Labs engineer Harry Nyquist published a paper about improving the speed of telegraph transmissions. In this paper, he also proposed the basics of sampling continuous analog signals and converting them to a digital form. His Nyquist theorem specifies that the highest reproducible frequency in a digital system must be equal to or less than 1/2 of the sampling frequency. Ironically, Nyquist died in 1976, just as the digital era was beginning. Throughout the audio world, Alan Blumlein is best known for his 1931 stereo patent that examines the human binaural hearing process and the spatial illusion produced by 2 or more loudspeakers. He also described using crossed figure-8 microphones, now known as the Blumlein technique, and mid-side stereo miking methods. Going a step further, he details a cutter head for producing stereo record masters and proposed a means of transmitting stereo radio, all in 1931. We have a gentleman here by the name of Rob Alexander who wrote the definitive book on the life of Alan Blumlein. He has agreed to accept this award for Alan's family. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Here. Well done. Well done. In 1932, AEG hired Fritz Fleumer to work with Theo Volk and BASF chemist Frederick Matthias to develop a magnetic tape recorder. In 1933, Edward Schuler invented a ring-shaped magnetic head that created a concentrated magnetic field without touching the tape surface. The BASF group put iron powder on a cellulose acetate base that could be easily edited yet was strong enough to handle the torque of the transport motors. The first commercial tape recorder, the Magnetophone K1, a portable self-contained unit, was unveiled at the Berlin Radio Fair in 1935. In the post-World War II era, Hollywood was booming and the theater business prospered. Offering a better cinema audio speaker, Altec announced its original Voice of the Theater series in 1947. These were huge two-way cabinets with one or more 10-foot tall enclosures that put multiple 15-inch woofers on a wide flare bass horn and supported large multicellular horns. Their clear sound made them a hit with studios, theater owners, and the general public. In the early 1950s, Altec unveiled the much smaller Voice of the Theater A7, a 5-foot-tall two-way product suitable for smaller cinemas and multi-channel installs in the burgeoning stereo theater market. Years later, the A7's compact size and high output sensitivity made them a popular PA choice for bands and clubs in the 1960s and 1970s. As the first multi-pattern condenser, Neumann's U47 ushered in the era of the modern studio microphone. And today, even more than 50 years after its birth, the U47 remains one of the world's most sought-after and desirable studio tools.
I saw several microphones which looked very familiar to me during this show, and the closer I get, the more I recognize, well, it's a copy of the developed microphones from the ancient years of Neumann. What I'm doing here is I take the heritage on behalf of the entire Neumann team in Berlin. Let me mention one colleague. It's really, for me, a must to mention this while I'm here. And this is Stefan Preuss, who is our president for engineering.
The first tape recorder from Ampex, the Model 200A, is linked to the history of the German magnetophone. Based on the U.S. government's declaration that all German and Japanese patents were invalid, the magnetophones were studied by the newly formed Ampex Corporation, which started its own recorder program. In April of 1948, the first two units were used to record and edit Bing Crosby's radio show. Only 112 of the 200As were made, but the benefits of tape-based production were felt throughout the world. Besides making history as the world's first true multi-pattern microphone with remote control of its 9 pickup patterns, AKG's C12 also sounded great. Still highly prized today, the C12 laid the foundation for more than half a century of future AKG microphone designs.
Okay, you friends of the industry, receiving this kind of award is certainly very special to AKG and all its employees. And of course to me, associated with the company for more than 35 years. That means I actually remember it when it was still sold. We will continue, of course, to work as hard as ever for providing the right tools to the industry. And on his behalf and the AKG staff members and myself, thank you for honoring us with this precious award. Thank you very much. Was it briefing?
It was excellent.
The first electronic reverberation device, the 1957 EMT-140, used the concept of vibrating a large, thin metal sheet that was suspended by springs from a rigid metal frame. The vibrations were generated by an amplified center-mounted transducer, and the reverb output came from a microphone-style pickup on the plate. The results were thick and diffuse, and well-suited to vocals and drums. Some 40 years after Jim Lawrence invented it, the Teletronics LA2A optical tube compressor limiter continues to be in demand, even in these days of digital production. With up to 40 decibels of smooth gain limiting, a flat 30 to 15 kilohertz frequency response, and low noise performance, the LA2A was and still remains a studio standard.
The LA2A was one of the first audiophile
first transparent compressors. So I'd like to honor it for its longevity as much as for its quality, even today.
Even today. The son of the man himself, Mr. Bill Hutton Jr.
The Teltronics LA2A was developed by James Lawrence, and it's wonderful to be honoring the LA2A and his work, which is really pivotal and brought not just this product, but the whole family of electro-optical compressors to the audio and broadcast communities. And these are his granddaughters here, and we have other members of the whole board. And so I'm honored to be up here and with them accepting the award for James Lawrence and the work he did with the LA2A, and
Are they accepting?
they're going to accept it.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's great.
In 1965, Dolby Laboratories was founded to develop systems for reducing the background noise inherent in tape recording. Ray Dolby's first product, the A301 A-type noise reduction system, debuted in 1966. The effect of Dolby noise reduction on the world's audio community was profound. It opened the possibilities of narrow gauge and low speed recording on formats such as the cassette tape and pro video recorders, as well as home VCRs that would follow later. But on the pro audio side, Ray Dolby's invention helped fuel the fire of a multi-track recording revolution.
Well, it feels good to have one's invention used and acknowledged. It's been now since 1966, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge also David Robinson, who's here. David joined me in the summer of 1966. Just a few months after the introduction of the A301, and he joined me and my wife Dagmar to travel to the AES in Los Angeles, the Hollywood Roosevelt, where we gave our first demonstrations. And we brought all kinds of meters and oscillators and noise generators and things like that with us so that we could sort of overcome any technological objections to what we were trying to do, so we could prove that this new system really worked. And we had the hardest time interesting anybody in all these tests. They would just say, well, this is all nice, but who's using it? And so we discovered that the first thing we had to do was go to a typing little stationary place next door to the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. Dagmar typed up our first user list, which had about 16 studios on it. And we handed that out, and that did the trick and got the ball rolling. So it's a very good, very satisfying feeling to think that we're still making those circuits in dribs and drabs that go into the cinema processors. So that's sort of satisfying, even though the SR and digital and things like that have overtaken the original A-type technology. But it's still sort of fun to think of the original thing still going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For 4 decades, the SM57 has proven itself in perhaps the most demanding applications, delivering solid performance placed in front of amp stacks or an inch above snare drums, where the high sound pressure levels would cripple lesser microphones. Today it's the rare session, rock, pop, R&B or country, on stage or in studio, that doesn't have an SM57 on a drum kit, even when far more expensive microphones are available.
You know, this is a humbling experience, obviously, for somebody like me to be up here, be able to accept the award for a product. I think the program talks a little bit about somebody that doesn't get nearly the accolades that he should. The developer, the late Ernie Seeler, whose product it was, and I guess the interesting thing about Ernie, who rode his bike to work until the age into his 70s when he retired a few years ago. One aspect of it, given the sort of rock and roll reputation of the 57, is that Ernie really hated rock and roll. It wasn't long. At any rate, I humbly accept this award on behalf of Sure. Thank you.
In 1969, there were no low-cost multitracks. So TEC America opened a custom shop to modify TEC's Model 4010 quad decks into the overdub-capable Simulsync TCA 40 series. By 1971, TEC America had become Tascam and started building mixers and recorders for the home recording market, almost single-handedly launching the home recording revolution.
As George said, I was probably 13 when this product hit, but it put me in the industry. It really did open up the world for a lot of the things we do in home recording. I'd like to introduce Jimmy Yamaguchi, who is the president of TEC America.
Well, I didn't prepare any speech. That's why, my colleague will be, he speaks very well English. And he's going to, a little bit explain about, the multi-track recording.
I just thank you very much for the award. I think it's great.
At MIT in 1971, Dr. Francis Lee developed a digital delay unit for heartbeat monitoring. A teaching assistant, Barry Blesser, suggested they try running audio through the system, resulting in a 100-millisecond audio delay line. New York City's Gotham Audio heard about it and commissioned 50 units. Thus, the Lexicon Gotham Delta T101 was born and helped convince the industry that digital audio was a viable proposition.
Yes, on behalf of Lexicon and certainly Barry Blesser, which I thought was here this evening, I'm sorry you missed it, on behalf of Barry, and also Francis, Dr. Francis, I believe, Lee. Never met Francis Lee, and it didn't have a lot to do with designing this product, I can assure you. Okay, but it's something, somehow, I don't know if they breed them in Boston at MIT or Harvard with Dr. Griesinger, David Griesinger. The legacy continues, and we're Bright and I are both proud to be a part of it. Really are. Thank you.
Based on the success of its large Model 4320 monitors, JBL began looking into other studio products. The three-way all-cone Model 4311 was designed specifically as a studio monitor, and its clustered components provided coherent imaging when the speakers were used in near-field applications, such as meter bridge placement. In a matter of years, JBL monitors consistently led all others in its share of the studio monitor market.
Now, I wish I could, the only thing I could take credit for was not at JBL in 1974. I was barely born, but I was in the field using the 4311, as many of us were. Actually, the 4311, the A3340, and a Crown DC300 or 150, and a good microphone was the happy meal of the project studio back then. So it's an honor to accept the award for JBL. I'm honored to be working for JBL, having started by cutting my teeth on their products. And thank you very much.
The first commercial digital recordings were made in 1977, using Dr. Tom Stockham's SoundStream digital system. The unit used a 50 kilohertz 16-bit process that stored audio in an instrumentation tape recorder. One of its most important features was its powerful editing and crossfade capabilities, and the system remained in use for more than a decade. At the 1977 AES convention in Paris, Solid State Logic debuted the first 4000 series console with Studio Computer. A well-known UK studio owner remarked that no one would ever buy a console with a television in it. But the SL4000 found success with its inline channels, small faders, dynamics on every channel, computer-controlled automation, and tape machine control. Later models continued the refinements, and today there are more than 3,000 SSL-equipped studios and facilities worldwide.
I've been involved with SSL since 1978. In fact, the biggest part of my professional career. First at the Townhouse Studios, where we bought the first SSL that was in London. I was involved in helping the producers and engineers get the creative benefits that the system gives. Colin Sanders became a personal friend, and 3 years later I found myself working for SSL, where I have remained ever since. And SSL is a company where it blurs the distinctions between colleagues and friends, and on behalf of all my friends and colleagues, I'd like to accept this award for SSL.
From a technology standpoint, the 1978 launch of New England Digital Synclavier, the first commercially available real-time digital synthesis instrument, was a monumental achievement. The early units were fairly crude, but with the later debut of the Synclavier II, which offered polyphonic sampling and powerful synthesis, still favored by many top sound designers worldwide, New England Digital was on its way. The era of modern sound reinforcement began in 1980, when John Mayer unveiled the UPA-1, a compact, high-output, two-way system with something extra. It was the first trapezoidal speaker, which permitted the creation of tightly packed, wide coverage, horizontal arrays. But the real revolution was less obvious to the eye. The UPA-1 had an outboard electronic controller for optimizing the performance of the system, allowing the UPA-1 to function like a much larger speaker.
Thank you very much. This is quite an honor. I think the hardest thing about the UPA was demonstrating in the hotel rooms that we had at the time.
They still stink.
We had, PA was not, AES was not really doing, like, we were trying to demonstrate these things at the time. But, I think the UPA really was aimed at the theater market, where they didn't want to have big boxes because people go to a theater and they see there's no room to put them. So the UPA really evolved out of the theater people. A lot of the theater people really helped. You need someone to build something for. So it was really an exciting product to develop. And by the way, we are still selling them, so, but it's in it.
The Alesis ADAT changed the entire music industry, starting a revolution of affordable digital recording tools. Unveiled in 1991, this compact recorder could store 8 tracks of digital audio on SVHS tapes and could interlock with other ADAT units, providing up to 128 tracks. Eventually, the popularity of the ADAT diminished, mostly due to the rise of inexpensive disc recording systems. But its legacy lives on in its innovative LightPipe 8-channel fiber optic standard that remains in use today. In 1991, DigiDesign made a giant step with its Pro Tools, a Macintosh-based system that integrated multi-track digital audio recording and editing, DSP, and on-screen digital mixing. The Pro Tools system has since evolved 50-fold, expanding to provide full 192 kHz, 24-bit resolution, MIDI sequencing, TDM DSP plugins, and cross-platform PC Macintosh support.
This is just a great honor to be included with this incredible group of inductees. I mean, this is really humbling, to say the least. But DigiDesign didn't invent hard disk recording. In fact, we really, the software side, invented few of the core technologies behind hard disk recording. Our mission was always, we came from a background as musicians, and our mission was always to try to make powerful tools, but to make them accessible. And so, a powerful hard disk recording system that cost $200,000 that no musician was ever going to own or get their hands on was not an interesting challenge to us. But trying to really popularize this stuff and make it widely accessible, that's what we were about. And I think at the end of the day, it's driven a lot of, it's contributed to the whole project studio phenomenon, which is not a particularly popular phenomenon with some people in this industry. But I think at the end of the day, musicians getting their hands on the tools to realize their art is a good thing, and I'm just proud to have played a little part in that. DigiDesign is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and in the process of putting together a video for that, I got the job of digging through the archives of cardboard boxes, and I came across some old trade magazines I've saved, and I was looking through them. They were mixed, of course. But the thing that amazed me was how few companies that were in this business 20 years ago are still around, and that caused me to really reflect on, what makes a company in this industry that's built to last, especially in this world of technology-driven products where the product life cycles are very short. The ability of the incumbent in a market to out-innovate the small, nimble new players is rare. Most companies, there's kind of a Darwinian phenomenon of tech companies that they tend not to last very long. And in reflecting on this, in the case of DigiDesign, I mean, it's clearly one thing above all that has allowed the company to be around for 20 years, and that's the people. We were really lucky early when we started the company that we attracted some very talented people, and talented people attract more talented people because they want to work together. And at the end of the day, we really, the employees of DigiDesign today are really a fantastic group, and they're doing great work, bringing a lot of new innovative stuff to market, and I could not be more proud of the group. So they're the ones who make this happen. So thanks.
And thank you.
Unveiled in 1990, Greg Mackey's CR1604 compact 16-channel mixer spawned a revolution of its own. The mixer offered solid construction. Its rotopod chassis allowed connections from the top or front of the unit. It had an internal power supply. But best of all, the CR1604 did the impossible. It sounded great and carried a rock-bottom price. Mackey sold tens of thousands of the mixers, not only to struggling bands and musicians, but to working pros who used them as sub-mixers in high-end studios, on top tours, in post-production, and covering broadcast events such as the Olympics.
This is really for Greg and the team that did this, and it's great to be part of that team today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, and I'm sure he'll be very, very, very appreciative of it.
Well, thank you.
We'll find it.
We'll find it.
This is great. It's such a brilliant group of people that showed up here tonight. And, Peter Gotcher from DigiDesign. It's audio history right here on the spot. It's unbelievable.
We want to remind people of their heritage, to inspire them to keep on doing good work, coming up with new ideas.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is an industry built on brilliant innovation, creativity, expert technology, and fun. Everybody here in this industry has fun because they love what they do. They love music, and that's what's behind it all.
And David Schwartz is to audio publishing what Ray Dolby is to audio technology.
So where's my award?
So where's his award?
Okay, well, I'm 70.
On that note.